Find yourself talking to the Lord when you drive? I listen to Christian radio all the time. And the song, like we did a while back, was, Is He Worthy? From Revelation. Is He worthy? He is worthy. And I'll have to take off my glasses and wipe my eyes to continue to drive. Say, Lord, you are worthy. And you see, God is not my co-pilot. He's the pilot. I'm along for the ride. I'm his driver. That's all. I'm the driver, chauffeur. Romans chapter 13. Give him what's coming to him. Right? Right? When I think of give him what's coming to him, I think of John Wayne. Ah, yeah. Chisholm. John Wayne portrayed John Chisholm, who was a historical character. Forrest Tucker portrayed Lawrence Murphy, also an historical figure. They were cattle barons fighting for control of New Mexico. You may have studied about the Lincoln County War. That was it. And in the Chisholm movie where John Wayne gave the bad guy what he deserved. Boof! Love it. Didn't you love watching Batman when it first came out on television? Buff! Zappy! Zacco! Powie! You know, all that stuff. And it would flash. One of the corniest shows on television. Yeah. But we loved it, didn't we? Because the bad guy got it. Give it to him. Give him what's coming to him. The only problem with that movie is the movie shows that Chisholm killed Murphy. Murphy died of cancer at the age of 47. So, but you know, I guess they call it poetic license. But when we think of giving him what's coming to him, boy, we think of politicians, don't we? Yeah, man, give him what's coming to him. Yeah. Well, that kind of thinking was what was greatly exercised in the French Revolution. And they gave King Louis XVI what was coming to him, and it was the absence of his head. That's a guillotine there in the middle. And Marie Antoinette, you know, the let him eat cake lady, what a bloodbath that was. And when the United States of America was founded, it was a wonderful thing that King George was still in power, alive and healthy. It was not a revolution. It was a war for independence, and there's a big, big difference. French Revolution, that was a revolution. Those people got what was coming to them, the elite. And those people abandoned what was hundreds of years of tradition in the nation of France. We're on the verge of doing that in America. Do you realize that? But you see, in the United States Constitution, Article 1 and Section 4, Article 2, Section 1, both have to do with Congress and have to do with the President. The U.S. Constitution calls for elections that enable the peaceful transition of power. Hallelujah. Tradition says that George Washington rejoiced at that when Adams was elected. Well, that's because he was going out and he didn't have to die for Adams to get into office. There had been some dispute as to whether or not he actually said that. But I bet he was thinking it. Peaceful transition of power. So, we love to criticize our politicians. Oh boy, have we ever. And if they don't please us, boy, nowadays we call them names. Very disrespectful these days. And you know, Christians were just as guilty back during the Obama administration and especially during the Clinton administration. Some of the things Christians said about our president, our commander-in-chief, was distasteful. He was our president. I'll tell you what's distasteful in a moment. We don't like what they do, we're just giving what's coming to them. Well, but that's what the French did, and that's not what we want to do. What does God say they have coming to them. Turn in your Bibles to Romans chapter 13. We're going to take just a few moments to do just the first few verses today. I knew Teresa was coming, so I only planned on doing a short section. Romans chapter 13. Let every person, that is, every soul is the literal word in the language. Let every person be in subjection or subject to the governing authorities. You might as well sing the hymn and go home. That's it in a nutshell. Right there. Let us be subject to the authorities, for there is no authority except from God. Believers must obey all authorities in our lives. That includes the president, the Congress, the court, our boss, the police officer, the traffic light, the speed signs. I go along the road and I'm just flabbergasted, you know? I try to go the speed limit and somebody's behind me like, what's wrong with you? And I'm looking at them, I'm looking at the sign saying, what's wrong with you? Okay, I am rendering unto Caesar. You know, and we laugh about that, but God doesn't laugh about that. Why? Second part of verse 1. For there is no authority except from God. Yeah. That man's our president because God allowed it. The people are in Congress because God allowed it. The people established the speed signs and the speed laws and the taxes on our properties. God established everyone. It says there is no authority. Well, no authority except by God.
Praise God.
That's why Jesus said, obey your master, servant. Obey your master. And that doesn't mean just give him, face value and then talk behind his back. We're going to look at that in just a moment too. So, we must obey. We must obey. Why? Because God said so. When George Washington was leaving office, remember, he was very thankful for the peaceful transition. It's because the French Revolution was going on. He stepped down from the presidency, his second term, in 1796. The French Revolution was going on. It was smoldering around in 1789. Didn't finish up until 1799. A few years after he left, a couple of years after he left office. And in his farewell address, he said, the very idea of the power and the right of the people, which is the United States of America, to establish government presupposes the duty of every individual to obey the established government. God said it. President Washington said it. That's what those men believed. And that's what God has said. Many of them did believe the God of the Bible. Not all of them, but many of them did. We must obey that government. And why? Because they're established by God. And you say, well, now, wait a minute. Come on, Brad, are you telling me that some of these hoodheads that have been in office that do wild and crazy things are in office because God allowed it? That's exactly what I'm telling you. Well, how did Adolf Hitler get into power? He was elected. He was elected. Did God allow Adolf Hitler to be elected? You say, well, what good could come from that? The rest of the world united to put him down and to stop fascism, at least for a while. You say, how can God allow such horrible things? How could God allow Satan? How could God allow Cain to murder Abel?
Because he's God.
Because we are created in his image.
Yes, we are.
With the mind, the will, and an intellect, and the ability to declare and to decide. and to do. We're created in the image of God. We're not robots. He gave us the will to choose. And sometimes we choose wrong. Adam chose wrong. Eve chose wrong. Cain chose wrong. And there's been a lot of wrong choosing ever since. That's why Jesus had to come. These authorities are established by God. Verse 2. Therefore, whoever resists the authority resists the ordinance of God. And those who resist will bring judgment on themselves. For rulers are not terror to good works, but to evil. Do you want to be afraid of the authority? Do what is good, and you will have praise from the same. For he is God's minister to you for good. But if you do evil, be afraid, for he does not bear the sword in vain. For he is God's minister, an avenger to execute wrath on him who practices evil. We must obey their law. But then we go over to Acts 5, and you say, well, what about when Hitler was telling the Germans to kill the Jews? Well, when the apostles were before the Sanhedrin and they said, don't you preach in this name anymore, and Peter said, well, sorry, sometimes we have to obey God rather than man. But unless that's the case, we obey God by obeying the laws of man. It hasn't gotten to that point too much, at least not in America, but it's getting to that point where we must obey God rather than man. But unless what man's law is telling us to do is in conflict with what God tells us to do in his word, we must obey. But I don't like going 25, you know?
Oh, by law.
I don't know how to help you except that if we disobey their laws, we're disobeying God. It's that simple. Unless that law makes us disobey God's law. And we're getting to that point. Because there are cases throughout our country where nurses who are pro-life, women and men who are believers in the risen Christ, are being forced to participate in abortions, killing of babies. Abortion is a sterile term. It is an ugly word, though, you know, abortion, you know. As a matter of fact, we use abortion to describe something that didn't turn out very well, like a building that is ugly. We call it, that's an abortion of design. You know, it's an ugly word. Ugly word. Well, we prefer that, though, over the murdering of innocent babies in the mother's womb. And there are places that are trying to force pro-life nurses and doctors to perform abortions. And they're being prosecuted for it. They're being fired for it. The time is upon us, brothers and sisters, where we must obey God rather than man. But unless what they're making us do doesn't disobey God, we are compelled to obey. Verse 5. Therefore you must be subject, not only because of wrath. Just think about this. If we disobey the law, we're disobeying God. And if we disobey God, we get punished. Okay? And remember that all written in the books thing? It's all in there. All of it. And they're all judged by what's written in the books. Wow. That doesn't mean we get off. We're judged by what's written in the books. But if our name's in the book of life, we don't receive the condemnation that the others receive. That's the only difference. And they are all judged by what's written in the books. But those who have their names written in the book of life are spared the judgment. Why? Because it was paid by Christ. That's why. Therefore you must be subject, not only because of wrath, but also for conscience sake. Why? Because it's the right thing to do. The other day we were waiting for us to get there. Pat and I were sitting there Tuesday morning intercessory prayer. And she told me about a young woman who was getting a ticket by a policeman. And the policeman asked her, why, or it was a stop sign. It was a stop sign. She went, you know, a California stop, right through the stop sign. Why did you go through the stop sign? And she said, because I didn't know you were sitting there. That's what we've come to. You go down Interstate 95 to my mother's house. Man, the speed limit's 65. What do you want? Man, people look at and then you see some flashing lights down there, and all of a sudden brake lights, brake lights, brake lights. You don't see my brake lights come on. Why? I don't have a guilty conscience, that's why.
I didn't see you there. I didn't know you were there.
Well, what's that have to do with it? We're supposed to stop because it's the right thing to do, because God tells us to do it. That's why. And we might get killed if we don't obey that stop sign. You know? We might get killed if somebody else doesn't obey the stop sign. That's why those things are there. That's why they're there. That's why the speed signs are there. That's why Scott usually stands out here with a bright yellow thing with flags and cones and stuff to try to get you across the street, so that all these people that have dyslexia and think it means 52 instead of 25, yeah. It's crazy. But we should do it because it's the right thing to do. Yeah. Because God said so. And that's the difference between reputation and integrity. You see, reputation is what I am when everybody sees me. Integrity is what I am when nobody sees me except God, because He always sees me. That's the difference. We do what is the right thing to do. We obey the law. We obey our boss. We do what we're supposed to do because it's the right thing to do. You're standing there at the checkout, and your item is $19.95, and the girl rings up $9.95. Oh, miss, I think you shorted yourself. Boy, some of the looks you get. She would say, oh, thank you. That would have come out of my pay. In some of the stores, you know. $10. Now, what if I had just gone like that over the price tag of it? Oh, okay. And I pull out my wallet and pay the $9.95 plus tax. She wouldn't have known it until she balanced out that night. Maybe not even the people behind me would have known it because they can't see the price. I would have known it, and God would have known it. Remember the story about Abe Lincoln, who walked for miles to give 3 cents back. Of course, 3 cents bought a lot more back then. Nowadays, they're just worth for the copper. You know, they're worth more as copper than they are as a penny. But the idea of doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do. Christians are compelled to do that by our God. And then we come to verse 6. And we're going to finish up with these couple of verses here. Render therefore to all their due. Taxes to whom taxes, customs to whom customs, fear to whom fear, honor to whom honor. In other words, don't be in debt to anybody. In all aspects of our civic duty, we should do the right thing. That means jury duty. Ugh. But it does mean that, you know? Hey, what if everybody who was of sound mind and of moral decency got out of jury duty? What kind of juries would we have? Would you want a jury like that? No. I don't think any of us would. As a matter of fact, you'd be praying that there were more people on that jury like you than anybody else. Am I right? Yeah. It includes jury duty. It includes voting intelligently, not just push the buttons, fill them out, whatever the system is in your jurisdiction. No. To read up on them, find out where they stand. And don't assume that because they're just from one particular party, that they stand for this and for that. That's just plain stupid. Okay? It's ignorant. It's irresponsible. And yet that's what so many of us do. Okay? God is not a Republican. God is not a Democrat. If ever there was an independent, it's him. Okay? He's not from the Bull Party. He's not from the Tea Party. He's not from the Democrat-Republican Party, the George Washington Party. He's not from the Whig Party. He's not from the Federalist Party. God is Almighty God, and there is none beside him. He's no respecter of persons. Yeah. We should obey in all aspects of our civic duty. Vote intelligently. Vote biblically. Vote. Obey the laws. Pay the taxes. I used to do taxes as a side job. I used to do a lot of stuff over the years to support myself in the military. And we used to use a principle called tax avoidance. It's completely legal. Tax avoidance means don't pay more than you have to. Okay? If you have a rightful deduction, you take the deduction. Yeah. But I had a guy sitting in front of me, and I came to charitable contributions, and he said, just make it $500. I said, do you have receipts to back that up? He said, nah, just make it $500. I said, no, sir. My name goes at the bottom of this right above yours. Do you have receipts to support your $500 of charitable contributions? Can't you just make it $500? No, sir. He grabbed his stuff and just walked out the door. Have a nice day. I wasn't going to do that. He was. He doesn't understand that he'll give account to God. As would I, had I gone ahead and just put $500. But as a licensed tax preparer at the time, my name would have been on that. And even if it wasn't, I would have known. And God would have known. We should obey in all aspects of our civic duty. Whatever we owe them, we do. To the boss, that's a full day's work, an honest day's work, for a full and honest day's pay. And not talk behind his back. Doesn't matter if he's the nicest guy in the world or the most horrendous guy in the world. That doesn't matter. Servants, obey your masters, but only if they're nice guys. It doesn't say that. Servants obey your masters. So, we should obey and respect those in authority over us as if we're doing so for God. Because we are. Amen. Please turn in your hymnals to number 321. Father,